because you were not just a member of parliament, you were also serving in the government, even though you were a deputy minister.
In the first term.
Yeah, in the first term. Is it the case that the first term of Akufo-Addo was good, the second term was bad?
Well, we have to be very frank with ourselves. The best years of Akufo-Addo's 8 years were 2018, 2020, before COVID struck. Those were his best years.
Were they his best years because he was listening to people, or because there was no disaster to test his leadership? What went wrong after 2020?
I'm sure because, first term, you are expected to be voted for the second term. So you are working towards your second term. So there's more cooperation.
You play nice.
Yes. And because you know how to go and face the electorate again, you are careful of certain mistakes. But the second term, because you're not going to contest again, I think all hell broke loose and it cost us.
I'll ask you how bad it was, but before then, since we've mentioned this second term, first term thing, let me just ask your view on John Kufuor had proposed in the past that we should have a one-term presidency when you have, what is it, 7 years?
5 years.
5 years. Do you think that maybe that could be the solution?
Not necessarily, but in 4 years you can't do much. So President Kufuor is right to a large extent, because in the first 2017, 2018, we're just struggling to find our feet in government. You understand? But 2018, moving into the first, second quarter of 2019, were the best years because we had weaned ourselves off the IMF. We would go to the international market to borrow money. We could then embark on serious infrastructural projects and what have you before COVID struck. So the economy was on the right track before COVID struck. COVID struck, and then all hell broke loose. We then had to introduce more austere policies like e-levy, betting tax, and what have you. And those kind of policies didn't help. Because remember in the 2021-22 budget, the then finance minister told the nation that he was going to rely on 2 revenue streams, the property rate and then the e-levy. So he didn't have to go to IMF. But that didn't materialize. So then we were back at IMF. And then after the IMF, there were other austere policies like the DDEP and what have you. The President, Nana Addo Dankwa at the time, addressed the nation and assured our savers and pensioners and investors of no haircuts. Then there were haircuts. And the haircuts, it wiped away investments, it wiped away pensions, it wiped away savings. And that hurt us very badly.
But the test of...
So it just didn't impact the economy. It wounded us.
But the test of a leader is when there is chaos or confusion. Leadership failed when there was chaos, as in Ukraine war, COVID pandemic. That was what we wanted to see, true leadership. The president said he knew how to bring economies back, but not lives. But it appears he never managed to bring the economy back.
Well, I think COVID was a downhill. We went downhill from then, and that was when some of us advocated for the replacement of the then finance minister, because we felt the economy was going to be the asset test of the 2024 elections, or the litmus test of the 2024. So we had to replace and get somebody fresh to come and because if you tell the donor partners that you have the capacity, you have the resources, Ghana was too capable, Ghana was too this to go to IMF, and then you end back at IMF, clearly there will be a deficit of credibility here. You understand? And in the eyes of the international community, our donor partners, they will look at credibility, right? And some of us believe that he has lost it. These were his own words, right? And then, because the finance minister wasn't replaced, it led to more austere policies like the DDEP and our external creditors. All the infrastructural projects had to come to a halt. We couldn't develop most of our strongholds, and that all impacted on the results. It's all captured in the data.
Yeah, but the data also does not say necessarily like Ken Ofori-Atta is a problem. So was it Ken Ofori-Atta who was a problem, or Akufo-Addo? Which of the two cousins was?
You see, you blame Ken, but who bears the ultimate responsibility? Who did the Ghanaians vote for? Everybody holds a position in government, whether it's a Akufo-Addo or John Mahama, and the president. You understand? So Akufo-Addo appoints, and he can only the only person to disappoint you.
But why? Okay, was it a case that he was not listening? Because you said that you were warning, like you said, it's like you were on the Titanic. You saw the iceberg. You were telling the captain, but didn't bother. Is it a case that the captain wasn't interested, or was he blocked from hearing the?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
What was the problem?
That's why I'm saying that in the second term, all certain presidents, the second term tend to be on autopilot. Well, I'm sure if the Ken Ufrata matter had happened in the first term, the president would have acted because he was looking at the second term, and that would have probably informed his decision. You understand? Because nobody can say that we didn't lose this election because of the economy. And I'll give you a soundbite. And the domestic debt exchange didn't just impact the economy; it wounded trust. We must never again put pain without dialogue. Well, the Ghanaian people were told that there were going to be no haircuts. That was a clear statement of intent from the president.
So there was a breach of trust.
Of course. And then the next minute, DDP had been introduced. So they lost money. They lost savings, investment, and pensions. And we saw a former CJ picketing
for the first time in our lives.
And that alone, the optics, it points our perception. So the optics weren't good. And that cascaded down and affected our electoral fortunes.
Yes, but the question is, and we are still talking about leadership, Akufo-Addo's leadership. This man wanted to be president since 97. I was, 8 years old, or I'm not sure if I was even up to that old. For 20 years, he's been in the wilderness wanting to be leader. Clearly, he had something and knew something. That's why his party pushed him and made him president eventually in 2017. Where did all those skills that we're told about, all the characteristics of this man that we're told about, where did they all go that he becomes president and suddenly, I mean, the physically challenged people in the toll booths were crying, people in the banking sector were crying, DDP people, a former chief justice was complaining. What went wrong? When? How?
But Umaru, is very different contesting for position and very different your actions and decisions when you are given the position, clearly. So I don't think his 8 years, I believe, ended, and our performance is captured in the data. So I don't think there's any point belaboring that. You've all seen the 8 years of Ronaldo. I've told you that I was a member with him for 8 years, no parliament with him for 8 years. I was a deputy minister with him for 4 years. Yeah. So his best years, so far as I'm concerned, as an insider, were 2018 and 2019. Then COVID struck, so things went downhill. We went into the 2020 elections limping, and then the unfortunate thing happened in 2024. So we have been alerted by the good people of this country that all wasn't well going to the 2020 elections. That's why we had a split parliament.
I saw Musa Dankwa yesterday put out a poll in which he said that your goodwill is going down still as a party. Many of your party members are jumping ship.
It's good you've brought this thing up again. At this current state, John Dramani Mahama has the goodwill of the people. And nobody can take that away from him. He just come out of an election 6 months. 184 members of parliament.
Huge.
56, 7%. I don't know.